Yep, sure. What was that now? Do you already put it up on my calendar now? Okay. September what? First. It's usually the first Wednesday. Okay. Okay. What time? 2. 2:30. Yeah. Right. Okay. Great.
No,
How are you?
Good.
We're not going to discuss that. We're just going to let people make public comment.
Okay, you get truck fixed? I still have for one my Forerunner and it's I went off. I got something actually so the side back now they come test it because I went too far up on the driver's house. Yeah, that's a bummer. Use a good trucks. I don't know how to do.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Wow, that's because I'm muted.
Oh.
That might explain it.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you? So I'm gonna turn you, let me get you.
Who's this?
It's Sean and
Seth and Sean. Yes, Seth and Sean, they are at a safety training conference, forum, but they're gonna need to speak on occasion, so I'm gonna turn them towards you all.
And then if you take your nameplate down.
Yeah.
Oh, where's the green? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Stand facing here.
Okay, very nice job on the live stream. There you go.
Yay.
My hero.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. It appears that everyone who's coming is here at 5:59 p.m. And we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 3. I have one adjustment to the agenda for this evening. We're going to eliminate action item 9.2 on your agenda, which is the motion to approve an overnight athletics day in Vinyl Haven. We're going to make arrangements for that game to occur, but given the increase in COVID cases, we're not going to approve overnight stays for students at this point in time. Okay. Approval of the minutes for July the 8th.
So moved.
I have just one question and/or possible change that I wanted to know. In the minutes, it mentions that, excuse me, like it does, that the Finance Committee is Jessica, and the Facilities Committee is Chris, and I think that's reversed. I think Chris is the chair of the Facilities Committee, or Jessica is the chair of the Facilities Committee, and Chris Farmer is the chair of the Finance Committee. So we just need to make that note in the minutes. Yes,
And another change on that one, the
Okay.
Building Facility Committee, my name should be on that list as well.
that's correct. Deb Ladd's name should also be on the Facilities Committee, so we need to make that change. Any other adjustments to the minutes?
I accept your friendly amendment.
Okay, a second? Second, Kathy. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, our next item is public comment. And I'm assuming some folks are here to make a statement. We would just appreciate, since we are live streaming this evening, so that people at home can see and hear you, if you'd come up and stand on the, because there's a gray line up here, and face the camera while you make your statement. Is anybody here interested in making a public comment?
Can you comment regarding anything?
Yes.
Any comments?
Yes,
So we can comment about the mask situation?
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
Hi,
Hi,
who can I give all this paperwork to?
you can share it with me.
Okay.
And I'd appreciate it when you turn to face the camera, if you would just state your name.
Hi, Jacqueline Cook. I'm here to oppose the masks for my child who's going into 3rd grade. And I brought lots and lots of scientific backed research as to why there's no need for it, for children especially. That's my statement. I don't know if you want to read any of it or.
Well, of course, we'll absolutely take this into consideration.
Thank you.
And just so you know, we are not going to actually discuss the mask and or pool testing issue this evening. We're going to host a special board meeting on August the 24th, which is in 2 weeks.
Okay,
So if
so
you'd like to come back at that time to be part of that discussion, we welcome you to do
yeah,
that.
I have the whole thing. We can print it again.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
So-
both were talking. So.
Oh, she said that she was just telling us about the meeting on the 24th.
All right, I didn't hear what John said.
Oh, he said he
Oh,
wanted
no,
to
so
take.
we're going to table this.
I have it. I have a copy as well.
So this can be our copy then?
Yes, and I would love to know, if possible, if somebody's going to actually read that and bring any of it up in the meeting.
Well, I will make a commitment to read it, and I would also ask that whatever in this material you feel is really pertinent to highlight.
He did that, yeah.
Okay, so it's highlighted with it, but that you speak to that at the meeting
Yes.
during public comment.
Yeah, there's 2 very short, those 2 that are on top of the folder are very short, so we didn't highlight anything, but there is 117 page, like, collaborative paper, and that's highlighted.
They are peer-reviewed scientific journals
Okay,
supporting our stance.
Okay.
On the psychological and
Okay.
physical
I see that this is,
detriment of wearing masks.
Yep.
So
Yeah, the other one's highlighted in the folder.
And I
okay,
think it's
great.
said.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyone else interested in a public comment? Yes,
I was informed that the results from the survey would be done tonight, so.
There's copies right there by the
Okay.
agendas on the.
Thank
on the-
you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I don't see it. Do you want to
Is it this right here? Oh, that's
Oh, thanks, Sheila.
anyone else who has a comment this evening? Please just understand that on tonight's agenda, there is not going to be a board-wide discussion of masking or the pool testing, other than the superintendent is going to report out on the survey results we have received so far. And other than that, we are going to be having a special board meeting on the 24th of August, which is in 2 weeks at 6 o'clock. And you're welcome to come back again if you'd like to be part of that discussion. Okay? All right, moving on. Start with comments by the chair. I'd like to just point out three things. First, to make note that we are live streaming our meetings now, so that if people want to make public comment, it's really important for them to be here in person to do so. The second thing I'd like to comment on is that the board is going to be sponsoring a breakfast on August the 31st for the teachers. That's their last workshop day before school starts with students in the building. And we'll be providing just some breakfast muffins and things of that nature, coffee and fruit. But just we want to, as a board, welcome them back into the building for the school year. So we hope that all of you can join us for that. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I think as many of you as can participate in that, it would be very helpful. The third thing I'd like to mention is that we sent you out a survey about a school board workshop, and we offered you 3 different dates. I think it was the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th of September. And we got a very low response to that. And I know that some of you that are veteran school board members feel like you've had a school board workshop in the past, and it really isn't necessary for you to participate in that again, except that we do have three new board members. And we feel that it's very important on an annual basis to at least briefly touch on the legal, the procedural, and the ethical issues that surround being a member of a school board. But that our workshop is not going to wholly focus on that. We also want to use that session as an opportunity to set goals for the board for this coming year. And then in the spring, be able to evaluate our progress towards achieving those goals. So I think if you're hesitant because you think you've already heard it, I would really encourage you to still come and participate, because I think the goal-setting portion of that workshop is really important. Any comment about that or discussion?
Was the time settled on?
Well, we haven't settled on a time, and this is what I was going to offer. You know, initially we offered you the 24th, 25th, or the 26th, and people seem to be interested, the people who responded to the survey, mostly the 26th, which is a Thursday. But given we're going to have that special board meeting on Tuesday the 24th, if you just come in a couple of hours early, let's do the workshop from 4 to 6, and then the board meeting at 6 o'clock, we'll offer you a light dinner, sandwiches, and something to drink, and chips and so forth. And we could work through until the board meeting. What would be the consensus about that? As good?
So 4 o'clock.
So 4 o'clock on the 24th? Does that work for everybody?
That would be fine.
And I think it's really important. You know, Steve Bailey is going to be here from Maine School Management Association, and he won't spend a great deal of time, but I think, you know, when I was a new board member, it was really helpful to learn about the legal, procedural, and ethical issues that surround being on the board and responding to community and community concerns. So I think that'll be helpful for all of us. So I will appreciate you being here. Okay, thanks. I'll move on then. To the superintendent.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd just like to speak to the summer program. It ended last Thursday. It was probably one of the most successful and well-attended summer programs we had. It ran for 4 weeks. We actually had 30 students enrolled in grades K through 12. We had 5 staff that participated in this, all very high-quality interventionists. It included intervention and some credit recovery. It was coordinated, some with CIA, as a couple of our teachers and ed techs would go up to CIA to give the services needed to the kids. And I really want to give a shout out to Katie Willis, who directed the program. She did an outstanding job this year. Kathy Remillard, Jackie Haley, and they all did a super job with it. It was just unbelievable. So thank you so much. As we are all right now, we're all thinking a lot about our return to to school plan, and really trying to make it a safe return to school. We are really trying to stay up on all of the very rapidly changing information that we're hearing. Schools are trying to make decisions, and we asked that you all participate in a survey to sort of, so we could sort of gauge where everybody's at with this process. And, you know, as you have in front of you, you have the information in front of you, it's pretty split. Which
What was the response?
there were 117 responses.
Out of how many? How many?
That's a pretty well, I mean, we have, right, I mean, that's a high, you know, for 200 students, so.
I'm amazed it's that much response. Usually when you do those email things, it's like 3%.
It
So
was,
that's
but
good that people
but we have to
respond.
keep in mind too, it did go to staff, and it did go out to some students, grades 7 through 12.
Oh,
So
okay.
they also had an opportunity to chime in, and we'll keep it open. I'll keep I'll keep taking those in, and as this continues to change, I'll keep updating everybody. But as of today, this is what the response number was.
Are
So,
you able to segregate the data or no?
No.
Okay.
no. But we didn't do that because
The focus group is so small.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we go there, we don't get the responses that we would like. So, so it's pretty split at this point in time. Right down the middle, which, you know, I was hoping it would go more one way or the other, you know, but it didn't. So we'll keep working at it. But I do appreciate all of the responses because it is helpful, and I want to make sure that everybody has a voice in this because it's important.
I appreciate you doing the survey for that part because there are some districts out there in the state that just said, this is what we're doing. And pull the trigger before we really have all the information. So I appreciate the extra step you took to get opinions and voices there, and I guess
Thank you.
we still got 2 more weeks for people to chime in, so.
Yeah,
And I know it puts us up against a tough timeline with school starting, but I think hopefully we'll have a bit clearer future where things are at in 2 weeks.
Well, it also allows us the opportunity, because many of the districts who are in our collaborative, or even around the state, are still undecided as to what they're going to do with respect to masking. And so it gives us a chance to see the trend in the state in terms of what other districts are doing, as well as get more feedback from the community. So we have that information when we make that decision on the 24th.
It's not an easy decision.
it won't be. So one thing that I can speak to, or a couple of things that we can speak to for sure that we know today, is that if children are riding the bus, they have to wear a mask. That is a requirement. It's been mandated by the state because they look at this as public transportation. So that is out of our control. So bus drivers and students will be wearing a mask on a bus. I'm going to send some communication out to the community tomorrow in regards to that, and I'll be asking parents to reply as to whether or not their children will be riding a bus or not, so we can start planning for that. And the other thing that we will be doing, that we are in the process of putting in place, is the rapid Vinex testing. That is optional. Is that correct, Lindsay? I'll let you speak to the details of it, but that is something that we are putting in place if needed.
So just, I don't really want to go stand up there, but I guess I will, so everybody can see me. I don't have my papers, but, so the rapid testing is very different than the pool testing, and I apologize to anybody that didn't fully understand what pool testing consisted of. It's really hard when you're doing a survey to try to put into words exactly what it is. So I am going to explain the difference. And again, none of those decisions, well, the antigen test is happening. The pool testing, we are not
Sure,
making
yeah.
any decisions on, but I wanted to make sure that you all understand what that is. So the rapid antigen testing is, schools were using it last year. I was not comfortable doing that here at the time because everything was still very new. I really wanted people to have to see their doctors or to do the testing with somebody that knew a little more than I knew at the time. So we are now going to be offering that to staff and students who are symptomatic. It does save a step for families in the event that we feel that they are showing symptoms. It is not a requirement in any way, but it is something that parents and or staff can consent to. We are waiting for guidance. We're always waiting for guidance, hence why we can't make a decision quite yet, surrounding what a positive will look like going forward when it comes to school and what that quarantine and close contact looks like. So I can't speak to that. I do believe it's going to be different than it was last year. So that is what that is. And we already have those tests in place. I've already registered. I've been approved. We had to get a waiver for it, just like the fire station does it as well for their staff. We had to go through those same processes. So that's that. Any questions regarding that one?
Yeah, quick. Oh, go ahead, please.
So in the beginning of the year, is a form going to be
Yes.
sent home consenting?
Yes.
So if my son's in class sneezing, he's not going to be tested?
No, you have to sign a consent. I cannot test your children without a consent form. I will not do that. I would never do that. I make
Yeah,
that
state
pretty
law is
clear.
pretty clear on
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah,
I have a license that I am protecting, and in no way am I allowed to do anything without the consent to a minor, without the consent of a parent. So
Thank you.
I do not plan to do that. So make that very clear.
Lindsay, 2 questions. The first is, what's the turnaround on the results of that test?
15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. And the second is, does it identify children who have been exposed to COVID or who have COVID?
Have COVID.
So it would be a test confirming that this particular individual has COVID. And you would know within a few minutes whether or not. And then
It's
we
just
have
a
to.
rapid, and you wouldn't do it normally unless they show so many symptoms. I mean, if somebody is just sneezing, I'm not gonna test them for COVID. They have
Right.
to have a combination of things that way, you know,
Okay.
it's not just gonna be one symptom. So you would not have to get tested. Okay, start to lighten the load a little bit. Any more questions regarding
So
that?
Lindsay,
Yes.
just so we can be abundantly clear, my understanding is that it would be a violation of your nurse license if you tested a student without parental consent, correct? Even if they said, hey, I want to do it.
Unless that student, unless.
They have to be a
it's
certain age,
yes,
right?
they would have to be 18 and, you know,
Right.
they can.
If they're 18
consent to
years
that.
old, then they can do it, but anyone under 18,
Has to have parental consent.
right.
And,
Because I think there was some confusion on that in the public, so I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
and even if a student is 18, they are still in the building, they can consent to it, but I would still notify the parent out of.
Well, it's a small community, we.
So.
What would happen to a student if you wanted to test them and the parents said no? They get sent home for 14 days? Or?
I don't know what the amount of time is that I'm waiting for the new updated algorithm that comes up and says symptoms. If they said this, what do they need to do? So unfortunately, we would still have to go by whatever that says. But again, they'd have to display so many
Right.
symptoms. It's not going to be, and I just want to put it out there really quickly that there were very few kids that I sent home last year with any sort of COVID-like symptoms. I really didn't because I had a good pulse on the kids and I'm very familiar with 90% of them and their usual things. So I just want to make that, for those who don't realize what really goes on here, very few
I also think
times
parents
did I.
did a really good job.
Parents were really
At
good.
just keeping their kids home if they aren't feeling good too,
Yeah.
which was really helpful.
Yeah.
So,
Will there be, the only question I had with the rapid test, so we can help families in that, will there be an opportunity, say, you chose to keep your child home because you were worried about that, will there be an opportunity where they, once school's over for the day, or is there some opportunity where they can get a rapid test?
Yeah, they can communicate that with me, and
So
I
they don't have
can.
to drive to Walgreens in Farmington or wherever?
Yes, yeah, but it would have to kind of.
Meet the,
Yep.
you'd have to run it through your algorithm, so to
Yep.
speak. And is the DOE or the main CDC, who's going to be providing that?
The algorithm that we followed last year was mainly through the Maine Academy of Pediatrics, and then the DOE, says that based on this algorithm, and then they kind of do their own. So the pediatric one is more on the clinical side, much more for myself, and the DOE does have one that's in a little bit different terms, and they kind of go hand in hand, but I go by the pediatric one.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so quickly on pool testing, and just what that entails. I have not applied for pool testing at this time. It is just something that we were throwing around as a potential option. So the basic gist of it is that, again, that is a consented test. It's not something I will do without parental consent for that. And it is done once a week. And the difference with that is that it is a PCR test. So a PCR test is, or was, the gold standard test. And it is still a sent out today test that is done. And the goal of it is to try to pick up on positive COVID cases that may not be symptomatic. So in the classroom, the students at certain ages, I think kindergarten and first grade, cannot self-swab. I cannot remember, I don't want to quote on that, but there is an age where they have to have an adult help them. But it's not the one way up as far, it's like halfway into your nose and then you swab it. Everybody puts the same, into the same vial and it gets mailed out. And so pretty much every day, if we did that, FedEx would be here or whoever it is that they have. It's a contracted thing. I don't dictate who picks it up, anything like that. I just do what they tell me to do and then I get the results. Then we would be notified if that pool was positive. If that pool of children, say third grade, is positive, then those that participated in the pool would then have the rapid test to find out who was the positive individual. That individual would then have to go through whatever the criteria is for that positive case. Here's the difference that I do know of. Those students who participate in the pool testing will not have to quarantine because they are being tested every week. The students that do not participate in it would have to, if they are identified as a close contact and they're unvaccinated, which most of our higher population there may be, if they're unvaccinated, they would have to do whatever the quarantine requirement is for a close contact. If they are vaccinated, they are allowed to resume coming to school, working, whatnot, but are asked to do another test in 3 to 5 days, just to make sure. So that is really all I know about it until yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a group of 10 students that you're pool testing. You're testing them in school.
Yep.
Once you test them, do they go home?
No.
So they're all close contact still if there's a positive in the pool test.
Well, it depends on if we're masking or not masking. It makes a big difference.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
What if we don't consent to pool testing? What does that look like if there's a positive case in the class?
If we don't do it as a district, you mean, or as a parent, you
As a
don't
parent, I
consent?
don't consent.
If your child doesn't participate in that and is deemed a close contact, then they would have to be in a quarantine at home for a certain amount of days, whatever they tell us it's gonna be.
So Kayla could elect to have her children be involved in pool testing, and I could elect not to have my children in pool testing.
Yep.
So it's not a
It's not a-
school-wide thing, it's
no.
an individual.
Choice.
Yeah, it's an
School
individual choice in each classroom. So different classrooms will have different numbers of kids that are participating.
Okay, I did
However-
not understand that
Yes.
with the.
Yes, it's not like the whole class or nothing.
Okay,
But you want to you would want to get, I don't know if there's a minimum that they ask for, or that they would like to see so that it doesn't strew the data. I don't have all of that exact information right now.
Plus, a lot of these guidelines I've read, I mean, it's like Portland School District. I mean, the average third grade class is 300 per school of 6 schools, so
Right.
they have different schedules and they can do these pools a lot easier. Our third grade class is what, 12?
They strive for you to have 30% of your school population participate in order to make.
So in theory, if we don't reach that concentration, then we may not.
Yeah.
Because it might not be an effective.
yeah, is it even effective at that point?
That I would have to get more information for you.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Lindsay, where is the recommendation or the impetus behind pool testing in schools to begin with? Did this come from the CDC or?
It's been used nationwide. Lots of schools used it before. Maine just adopted it this spring or started using it this spring.
Okay.
So lots of districts in Maine started it in like April and May. And then some are still deciding whether they're going to get on board with it or not.
How many districts in Maine since the spring are actually going to be doing pool
I
testing?
believe
170, 166.
schools, not districts, right?
Schools.
166.
So I think it was roughly 50, I have it right over there. I think
It's
there's
about, and
50
within those, it's
districts.
about 45%,
of schools.
no, 45%. Within each school district, about 45% are actually participating in pool
in
testing
their
within their schools.
And of that 166 schools, how many schools are there in the state? Statewide. I just.
Well, it's like 161 districts, so I don't know what the amount of schools
Yeah,
are.
and
I think there's 50 districts that have registered to participate.
Okay,
right
50
now.
districts out of
I believe is
100
what I
districts.
just saw
Okay,
on the fact.
okay.
It's being recommended just as another safety factor that we can put in place.
But it sounds like, to me, I mean, one, it's optional to participate. Two, if you participate, then you have the ability that if you've got, you got more flexibility on the quarantine issue.
Exactly, not having to be quarantined.
Is that
if
correct?
it's
In
positive.
theory?
Yes. If we do pool testing as far
Right,
as
if we do
the
that.
close contacts, yes. That is my understanding.
You have a question, a couple questions.
Yes.
I'm just wondering about the accuracy of both the PCR tests and the rapid tests as far as false negatives, false positives.
I don't have that information right now. I can try to find it for you and report it the next meeting.
That'd be good.
I don't have that off the top of my head, sorry. Jacqueline?
How do you determine close contact with children?
It's going to depend on how they want us to identify close contacts in the classroom, which is what we're waiting for.
Oh,
Because the kids have been spread out, like I know we spread out to what, 6 feet apart.
Yes, so the standing operating procedure that we had last year, it started out that in a classroom, everybody in that classroom was identified as a close contact. So when doing pool testing, that kind of is a little bit different. I think they're going to change that. We are waiting on the updated one that they are telling us that will be coming soon, and we'll have that information in it, and so we don't have it.
Will,
Right.
Lindsay, will we have that information by the 24th?
I cannot
We
guarantee
can't
that.
guarantee you will. We
It's a state thing, it's,
Yeah.
we're hoping.
The timing of all of this is really terrible.
Well, the DOE's been a challenge from the beginning. If I remember last year when the pandemic, we dealt with the pandemic coming up, they announced, the DOE announced we were closed for the rest of the year before even
Our
superintendents.
checklists and
yeah,
everything,
anybody
so
knew.
that's
Yeah.
really
So, I
why
mean-
we can't give any information, because we haven't been given any
Yeah.
information.
I have a follow-up question to that. So, the children that did not do school testing, that are told they have to quarantine if, well, hypothetically speaking, if they have to quarantine, are they gonna be doing like Zoom from home?
That is to be determined at this point.
So what if it happens multiple times and children miss like 30 days of school? Do they get left back?
That's all to be determined. Again, we're just waiting for guidance on some of this,
What
you
the
know?
state says that we.
Yeah, it all depends on how they're gonna send out an SOP, you know, which is gonna tell us what we have to do in certain cases, and then we as a district have to make a plan as to how we're gonna continue to, if we're gonna respond to that, or and continue to educate.
Last summer, we at least knew that we had to provide the remote option and all of that, so we spent the summer planning for that, and we knew what we needed to open school. Right now, we haven't been given that information ahead of time, which is kind of where.
But I know my tenure, that I've only been on the board this past year, I know our goal has been through the pandemic to provide the best educational experience we
Absolutely.
can for every kid. So that will be the filter of which we try to go through with these decisions. And that's what
Absolutely.
I expect we will continue to try to do it that way.
And
Unfortunately, there's a lot of variables we don't have any answers to, and we're kind of stuck waiting. Because we can map out a perfect plan right now, and in a week, the DOE, Department of Ed, could just say, this is what we're gonna do. So I know it might seem, I'm sure it's frustrating that we can't give you a decision on this right now, but I personally think it's better to let some of these other pieces, we've learned that from the other things we had to deal with. I mean, don't forget, we dealt with high school sports, we didn't even know till 4 weeks into the season with the winter sports what the real guidelines were even gonna be. And then when they issued the guidelines, one place it said 16 feet, one place it said 4 feet, it was all over the place. So I think I, as a board member, always want to be a little bit more cautious and say, let's let some of these things filter out. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels and creating additional challenges we have. And if we can try to come up, I do think it's important that we at least be flushing out how we're going to deal with students who don't participate in the pool and have to quarantine. But technology-wise, we've got some options.
And Chris, that's gonna be the basis of all the discussion and decisions we're gonna have to make on the 24th.
I understand, but it'd be good to see a plan. You've got a couple weeks to try
We're
to
gonna
work
start
on it.
working on a skeletal plan next week, because there's a lot of work that we can do. What I can say is, the commissioner, the superintendents met with the commissioner this week. And the reason that they're not making, or they're not mandating anything at this point is because we're not in a civil state of emergency anymore, so they can't mandate it. So that's why the schools right now are in the process of having to make these decisions, and at the same time, we're seeing a lot of cases everywhere popping up, and so, will we get back to that place? Possibly. I mean, within 24 hours, and I just don't know. And so I think a lot of schools are in this situation where the overall goal here, I think for all schools in the state right now, is to try to have our students in school, in person, as much as possible. That's the goal. So whatever we have to do to make that happen for our kids, that's what we should be looking at, because we don't want the disruption, and we want to minimize the disruption as much as possible, so that we're not in a situation where we may have to close, or, we just don't want that, so.
Absolutely. And as you said earlier, Chris, and our overarching goal is that we create as safe a possible environment for students as we can in making that decision. And we'll continue to collect data, rough out a skeletal plan, look at other information that people have provided us, and hopefully on the 24th we'll be able to come to considered decision. It won't be a decision that everybody's going to be happy with, because it's very clear that the community is split 50-50 on whether or not students should mask or not mask, but we'll try to make the most educated decision that we can make at that time. Okay, any other comments before we close off this section? Moving on. Seth, do you have a principal's report?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, yeah, I'll keep it brief. So I guess July from my end, so just a lot of procedural stuff happening. As we'll discuss shortly, we updated handbooks, we revised some policy, we found we're going to adopt some new policies, so just a lot of nuts and bolts. Like Power School, Abby built a new school year, Power School, got that all set up, that's a lot of work, she did a great job of that. I've been kind of on the move a lot. 2 weeks ago, I got to accompany Mrs. Little Liberty to the Teacher of the Year semifinals, where she gave a keynote. That was really cool. Not only did I get to see her, but I saw the other 7 finalists give their keynote speeches, and it really kind of it was nice to see where people were around the state with what they want to see happen in education. So that was really nice. Right now, Sean Russell and I are in Portland at an Ellis training, and we had a great day, learning the new thinking with, threats in school and how to best deal with those, how to train. So that was really exciting. We're looking forward to tomorrow. We do a lot of group projects, designing our own simulations. So that was a really busy, tiring day, but it was worth it. I guess that's about all I have right now. Just looking forward to getting kids back in the building.
Thank you, Seth. Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Let's start with policy. Kathy?
Well, we met on July 28th, and we got a lot of work done. We have a lot of action items tonight. And then we will meet again on September 1st for our next policy meeting.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. The Finance Committee, Chris?
Yeah, Finance Committee met tonight, 5 o'clock, our first meeting, the new year. We will be presenting one motion, which Mary will bring up when we get to it. Also, you will find in your packets, towards the back, you'll find a 5-year comparison of total budgets. And then the 21-22 budget synopsis. Both of these are online on the website. But there's been a lot of questions, especially in Rangeley with the tax increase and some of these pieces. I recommend you throw this in your vehicle or whatever if you get asked on the street. That happens to me from time to time. And you can kind of walk through if people have got questions about the changes and what's affected our total budget, especially here in Rangeley. We had an increase. I can't quote it, the treasurer's here, but I'm going to say almost, it was like 680 something, I believe, and 24 was from the state, about 220 something was from the bond, and then 448 came from our budget here. Is that pretty close? Yeah.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was just talking about the increase with Rangeley. So some people had some questions. So it's about 448, I think, or somewhere around there.
Yep.
So this gives you the comparison so you can see what the increases were. As many people know, we trimmed the budget last year in anticipation of the pandemic. So some of those costs had to go back this year. Had some labor negotiations. That's a small part of it. But we also made a big investment in with our psychotherapists and student services, which was a good increase, as well as we had an increase in our special education. Those type of things are, we as a board felt it was important to, based on what's happened with the pandemic and the students being out of school and getting back into school, that making investment in student services was a smart investment for the long-term health of the school. So all this stuff is on the website. I know lots of times in the True Rangeley way is it's hard to sit down and take the time to read those things, and sometimes people just rely on third-party information that's related to them at the various watering holes in coffee shops in the area. No offense to any owners. And so familiar yourself with the facts, board members, so that way you can try to help answer questions. I've had several calls just asking just general questions. Hey, why was there an increase and that stuff? And I had some questions on the global. I called to the town, asked my questions so I could get those answered, so I could try to speak somewhat intelligently on it. So take the time on that. If you have questions or you're a new board member, you feel free to give me a call. If you can't find my name, just Google it. And it's got my phone number right on it if it's not on our website. And I think it's important we have open, transparent communication on these type of things, and I think we've done it the other part. The second thing that you're going to see in your packet is you're going to see the financials, which are dated 7/1/20 to 6/30/21. Sheila has prepared the preliminary financial report. It still needs to go to our auditors and go through that part, but that gives you kind of an idea of where things shook out for the year. And where we'll be starting going forward. So take a peruse of that. And then you'll also see, I believe, the financial report for the year to date, which will be 7/1 through 7/31. Since it's only the 10th of August, that's great. We've already got a report for the first month. And you can see that there. You can also see we're allowed this year to be able to set some money aside in reserves, not only for capital reserve, but for special education reserve and student staff support reserve, which also helps with the technology. So the nice thing is we have Sheila's been here for, geez, I'm going to get it wrong, but 30, how many years? 35 years, I think. So we have a nice historical perspective to help us guide it through. I'm looking forward to a good year on that and being able to be fiscally minded but socially conscious of the needs of our staff, students, and community members. So I think we're off to a good start.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, Jessica, the Facilities Committee.
Yeah, we met today. We talked about putting up some no traffic or emergency use only signs for the new egress, as well as updating the emergency plan so that we're actually going to use it and where to meet. We talked about putting some internet up for the outdoor classroom and what that would take to get internet out there, along with some more security cameras around the building. We're just going to put a bid out for the plow for winter. We're still looking for that. And then our next meeting will be September 2nd at 5.
Okay, so you're going to be now meeting instead of prior to the board meeting. You're going to be meeting the first Thursday of each month.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
before the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Negotiations. We met with the support staff negotiators the end of June. We had a long session and came to agreement with them on the specificity of what we were going to do with the contract that's coming next 2 years. They have subsequently taken that contract to their union. It's been ratified by their union. And tonight in executive session, we will look at the particulars of that contract. And if the board then chooses to ratify the contract, we'll move forward, and that'll be in place for the upcoming school year. Okay. Appointments, resignations, nominations, and transfers. Georgia.
Okay. So I'm making a nomination for a new 4th grade teacher. Her name is Kimberly Hoffmeyer. She has been a teacher for 23 years. She has a master's in education from Lesley University in Cambridge, Mass. She has a bachelor's of arts in the University of New Hampshire. She, in her 23 years, has been a grade 1, grades 4 and 5. She's been Title I, grade 2, special education, as well as a past director and teacher of Title I summer school and after-school programs. She's also taught grade 3 and 4 multi-age classroom.
Super.
So lots of experience.
So moved. Well, we don't have to do anything, right?
Yes. And I am also nominating a new financial manager. Her name is Roxanne Tanner. She comes to us from, make sure I get the name right. She is living in Vermont right now. She works in Innisford Falls High School. She's been with them for close to 20 years and has worked in their central office. She is very highly qualified for this position, and she accepted the position yesterday.
More important is you have a place to live.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I should have mentioned that. They actually have a camp on Dallas Hill, and they're going to be selling their home in Vermont and moving to town.
Super.
And she's Sheila's replacement.
She is Sheila's replacement, and her husband is a carpenter or construction worker. So,
Wow. Little parallel universe there, right?
And then I have a resignation, unfortunately. I'm sad to say that Brittany Mora in the kitchen has resigned. She's leaving us. And then I would also like to speak, I'm going to get this out to community tomorrow, but I was waiting for all of the changes to happen before I did this. But I will communicate this out tomorrow to all K through 5 parents. There's been some moving and shifting in the elementary wing. So because the K through 8 guidance position was filled by Brittany DePompo, Ashley Ferrara is now going to be the new pre-K teacher. She's moved into pre-K. Shelley LaLiberty is going back to kindergarten. Rebecca Ellis, who is a new hire, she was nominated at the last board meeting. She will be teaching first grade. Allison Love will remain in second. Bridget Morton is actually moving to third grade. And then Kimberly Hockmeyer, who I just spoke to, will go in grade 4, and Doris Mitchell will remain in grade 5. And the only other thing we need to do is announce the coaches, and Jeff's going to do that, the coaches that have been hired.
The following people have been hired for coaching positions. Varsity soccer girls, Jeff Hawksley. Varsity boys soccer, Rowena Hathaway. Middle school girls soccer, Chip Smith. Middle school boys soccer, Lindsay Richards. And varsity golf, Tim Straub.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for the additional narrative. I appreciate that.
You ask and you shall receive.
I like it. I like it.
You learned a lot about her.
Yeah, no, that's great.
It's no longer a name and the numbers of years of experience. Okay, let's move into the action items. The first action item is a motion to transfer $10,500 from the pre-K salaries and student staff support Article 5 columns as well as Article 1 into the behavioral therapist salaries. And we knew at the time last year that this was going to be a bit on the shy side, and we aren't needing to do anything other than just pull monies from that particular article. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Chris. Second? Okay, all those in favor? Terrific, thank you, appreciate that. Moving on to item 9.3, a motion to approve the 2021-22 employee handbook. Seth?
I'll actually speak to that.
Oh, you will, okay.
Unless Seth, you have something to add. There weren't a lot of changes to this. It was just mostly some grammatical changes. There were no procedural changes to speak of.
So moved.
You set with that, Seth? Okay.
That's a
I can't even see the screen.
He said thumbs up.
He gave me a thumbs up. Well, that's helpful, Seth. Thanks. Can I have a motion then to approve that? Jessica? Okay, a second. Okay. And all those in favor of the motion? Terrific. How about a motion, 9.4, motion to approve the 21-22 student and parent handbook and code of conduct. And this, I think, Seth, you're going to speak to.
Yes. If you want to speak, the motion, there you go.
So moved. There you go.
So we review it every year, but we added a few areas, notably on page 14, under attendance. We had done some work on some attendance policy a few years ago, and for some reason, somewhere, it didn't all get put in, so this is what we wanted to add. The first thing I had on page 14 was work missed due to absence. That was just listed under pre-approved absence, so it kind of read like the only time that was missed work thing applied was to pre-approved, but it applies to all absences. If you're sick for a couple of days, basically just says you have 2 days for absence to make up work. Keeps kids accountable. And then the other piece that we didn't have anywhere in our policy, the denial of credit. Most all districts have something in there where it gives the admin, student assistant team, it gives the team a chance to look at excessive absences and at some point maybe say, look, you've missed so much school, we have to look at, you're not earning this credit. We're going to start over next semester. It gives us a way to work on a case-by-case basis, because previously we had some very binding language that basically, everyone that hit like 6 had to go to a meeting about loss of credit. Then once you hit 10, everyone had to do it. It didn't apply to everybody. This is often on a case-by-case basis. So we added that in there, and it's pretty typical in a high school handbook policy.
So can I ask a question, Seth?
That was under for academics, and the other.
Seth,
we got a question.
Seth, Wes has a
Yeah.
question about the handbook.
Can you just go over that again? So if
Which part?
the absences and the loss of credit.
Is that,
If you read, so denial of credit,
what page is that, Seth?
page 14.
14.
Okay.
Top of the page.
And which number was that? Or is
On
that,
page 14, if
Yeah.
you look at the top of the page, it says denial of credit in bold underline.
Right.
Second paragraph.
And there's a paragraph
oh,
there.
okay, yeah.
The second paragraph.
Seth, that mostly pertains to high school students, right?
Yeah, the only people that earn credit.
Credit or high school students.
So how would this be different from what was there before?
Very stringent before.
Was it? And this
Yeah.
makes it a little bit more flexible, so
what we
the
had before
administration
was
will be able to
down
work
by
with the
days,
children a little bit better.
and-
Could we- let's
and
just
you
let
had
Seth
8
explain.
What?
Seth, we was just trying to get clarified.
There's
part.
cross conversation, Seth, so you need to
Okay,
explain
sorry.
to Wes what change is a result of this.
So the first change is we removed everything like 2 years ago, and it broke it down by like from this many absences. Every single kid that hits that has to have a meeting with admin to discuss possible loss of credit. Whether the kid had strep throat or they were just skipping school to go play. Like it didn't give you any room. So that got taken out, and then we thought we had put something like this in, but it never got put in the policy. So we wanted to have something in there that still deals with a student that, like in the past year we see that basically is like dropped out. Is that okay? You don't have a chance to earn credit now. Like you've missed too much instructional time. You're gonna have to like make this up. It gives us that opportunity to deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
All right.
But what it does do, Wes, is it really lightens this up a bit so that it isn't strictly a per day rationale for why a student would lose credit, but it would be, the administration team would have the opportunity to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Right. All right.
Does that answer the question you had?
Yep.
And it looks like with the line in here about a conference is some kind of a due process here, it looks
Oh, yeah,
like.
it would be no surprise. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
It's not like you wake up 2 days before graduation and it's like, sorry. You're gonna have a conference, go over things, outline a plan, and then deal with it if that said plan isn't stuck to, correct?
Yes, and Kim and I work with tenants. So if your child ever gets to this point, there'll have been many, many conversations before that time. It would be like no surprise. It was, we basically have had multiple plans that failed. We'd be like, all right, it's time for this to happen. The other notable change is on page 28. It's under grade scales.
Yeah.
So basically, in our old handbook, we really didn't have anything for middle school. So if you look at grade scales, I have grades 6 through 8. They're going to keep their traditional A plus, A minus, B plus, B, all of that in there for at least another year. At the high school level, 2 years ago, we made the move to not award credit below a 70. But it was a little confusing because our grade scale kind of didn't reflect that perfectly. Like, basically you would get a D but not get credit. So I did some research and, Jackman, Greenville, and other area schools, we kind of went to the 71st, they followed suit, but they adjusted their grade scale to what you see there, where it's just an A, B, C, D, and F. And the F, there's some shifting in there. And really, we don't really use A, B, C, and D. The only place this really shows up is on our transcript.
Right.
And it's for colleges just to be able to look like, okay, they didn't get credit. Okay, yes, below a 70 is an F. That's really the only place we use it. This will not change honor roll or anything because honor roll you still have to have a B and above. And a B is an 85 before 80 to 84 is a B minus. That didn't cut it for honor roll. It just really makes, it's much more clear with how we do things now. And honestly, when you're thinking about mastering content and learning, a 70, 75, you're not really learning the content. That really is truly that D level of work. You need to do some more. And, I just really think this reflects what we're doing, and it is what other schools are moving to.
Any questions or discussion about that?
Good job fixing a couple
This is
things.
great.
So I moved the question.
So we move the question. All those in favor of adopting the handbook?
I have
John has a question, yes.
On page 17, there appears to be a small error. It says, if you observe bullying, you're encouraged to report this behavior to a staff member of school administrator. I think it means or.
Oh, okay. So you're on page 17, Joe?
Yes, at the very top.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For this being
Second
a
sentence
staff
halfway
member.
through.
Yeah.
There's one more change too that I want to speak to, and this is a little bit of a surprise. You guys don't even have this in your copy of this. We just added a little bit of language today in regards to bus being released off the bus and just making sure that communication happens to the office if a bus plan changes for a student. That's all. That's all it says.
So that's a criteria for when a student might be removed from riding on a bus, is that what you?
No, if their bus plan changes.
Oh.
To make sure that there's communication, no matter what grade the student is, we still need communication.
Okay.
So it just speaks to that.
So that's gonna be added. Okay, so we can move the question with those edits.
Yeah, I'll accept those friendly amendments.
Okay.
There we go.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Okay. It's unanimous. All right, thank you very much, Seth. Appreciate it. Jeff, do you want to speak to the motion to approve the interscholastic and extracurricular handbook for this coming year?
Yeah, basically what we did was teachers are required to update their grades every 2 weeks, and we were printing an eligibility list every week. So there was some student athletes' names that were showing up on the list that really shouldn't have been on the list. So we're going to check grades every 2 weeks to line that up with what the teachers are supposed to have done for their grades. And we're going to have the dates out ahead of time when we're doing those grade checks. So the teachers will know, the athletes will know, and their parents will know what specific days we're going to check grades. So it's just, what happens is we get the list, and about 1/3 of the list is actually who we need to talk to. So by the time we run around and talk to teachers and they've gotten the work and haven't posted it yet, it's a lot of time not well spent.
Thank you, Jeff.
So is it 2 weeks, 2 weeks now?
It's 2 weeks, but if the student athlete that shows up ineligible, we're going to check their grade the next week.
See if they improve so they can play.
Yeah, so they can play. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So can I have a motion?
Can I just add one thing, Jeff?
Absolutely.
We did, at the top too, one thing that wasn't really in there, we had to do it says, a student must be full-time to play athletics. And it says homeschool students shall also be involved in 6 or more courses via the homeschool program. We added language that the building principal and athletic director will review homeschool athletes' eligibility each season. We wanted to be fair. you know, if we expect eligibility of our athletes, then we will just meet with parents, just look at what their program is to ensure that it is happening. And they are also, you know, they're student athletes, not just athletes.
Any other questions or discussion? Can I have a motion to approve the interscholastic and extracurricular handbook?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, second. Kathy, thank you. Deb? All those in favor? Terrific. Okay, moving on. Kathy, I think at this point, oh, wait a minute. I think, Jeff, you're going to speak. Are you going to speak to the motion to approve policy JJJ, which is the interscholastic and co-curricular academic eligibility?
Yeah, that was just what we went.
That's what we
Yeah.
just did. Okay. So we covered both of those things in the handbook as well as the policy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I still need a motion to adopt the policy.
That's 9.6.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did.
I have to do
9.6.
9.6 first.
JJJ, Kathy, I'll turn that over
Oh,
to
wait a
you.
minute, that's
We
9.6.
skipped 9.6.
Well, it's
There are two of
9.6 and
them.
9.6.
Yeah, it is two 9.6s, you're right.
9.61
Sean
and
will- Sean is
9.62.
gonna speak to 9.6.
So let's do 9.6A for the policy JJJ. Kathy, I'll turn that over to you.
Well, policy JJJ, it was reviewed and revised by Seth or by you?
Yep, no, it's,
Jeff,
so
Seth.
there was two things there. The interscholastic, the only change in the interscholastic handbook is eligibility. What's in the handbook exactly is the policy, and we just revised it for the 2 weeks.
And Seth, I understand that we revised the handbook, but now we also have a policy, JJJ, which is called interscholastic and
And that's been
co-curricular
updated too.
academic
So they're
eligibility.
updated to
So we had to do that.
Yeah.
Like, we had to have the policy match the handbook.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
what Jeff spoke to.
okay, so, that's all there is.
okay, so I need a motion to approve policy JJJ. Okay, second? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, Kathy, go on.
Okay. Back up a little. IJNDB-E, Student Technology Protection Program. Sean, is Sean there?
Yeah, thanks.
Sean, you
Yeah,
wanna,
I'm here. Would
you wanna
you
go?
maybe describe the situation and go over it?
Yes, please.
Sure. So the existing technology plan that we've had, that was here before COVID, before I came, had three options. One option was to buy the plan and keep the device at school. Another was to not buy the plan and have it would require the students and the families to also keep the device at school. And the other option was to buy the plan and bring the device home. During COVID, we went without the policy because we required all students basically to bring their devices home due to the pandemic. And that really obviously changed things drastically. And coming into this year, I feel as though, you know, and for future years, it's really important that students are able to take their devices home, regardless of really their financial background. I think we want to reduce that technical or financial barrier with technology. So what I'm proposing, and I've reached out to some other schools to see what they're doing, is proposing this new technology protection plan. And for short, I have it as TPP. And basically that plan is life insurance without calling it insurance. And families can opt in to spend $40 per student or $60 per family. And this is just for students from 6 through 12 who would take their laptops home. And that would be like insurance. If there was something that happened to the laptop that was out of warranty, the deductible would be $50, and we would cover the rest through the money that we get through this program. And some other important aspects to our situation now, which is different from past years, is that we have brand new laptops for grades 6, 7, and 8 that all have AppleCare on those devices. So most damages that would happen to the laptops are covered through AppleCare. Like we had a screen break the other day, and that was covered for free through AppleCare Plus. So those devices, I feel like we wouldn't really have to spend any money on anyways. And then the devices at 9, 10, 11, and 12. I've been doing quite a few of the tech repairs, like changing like the aluminum cases, changing batteries, software issues. Because I'm here full time, I can do those things. So I think the cost of repairs has been reduced anyway. And this money that we would get in this plan, we would keep with student device breakages going forward. So this would allow all students to take their devices home, and they have the option to, them and their families have the option to either opt into this program or not. If they don't opt into the program and their device breaks and it's out of warranty, they have to pay the full cost of the repair.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
So what's our cost been per year? It sounds like we're self-insured with this, right? We collect X amount of money.
Yeah, and part of where I came up with the numbers from what we've paid this year, and so far this year, we really only had 3 repairs since I've been here and since January, and that's pretty astounding, I would say, considering all the devices went home, and that's including iPads, which don't normally go home. So our total this year has been around $1,200 or $1,300, I believe, for the repairs that I've seen so far, anyways.
And how much do we collect in fees?
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
How much do we collect in fees to offset that $1,300?
Nothing this year because of the requirements.
We didn't have any requirements this year, because all kids needed to have computers at home.
So this proposal then is that we don't collect any fees except for, I mean, if it's out of warranty and it's old, we're gonna replace it anyways, aren't we?
If it's out of warranty and the device breaks, we will replace it, but we will require families to pay for it if they don't opt into the technology protection program and it's out of warranty. If they opt into the program, then we will pay for the repair out of the money that we receive from the program.
But it's a $40 individual fee, Chris, or a $60 family fee for insurance for the computer.
And there's still a $50 deductible too.
Well, it's not really insurance though.
Or less if the cost is less. Like if the repair costs $35, we charge the family $35 if they opt into the program.
So when they pay the 40 or 60, their maximum exposure is gonna be, a single family would be $90, and then a family would be $60 plus $50 deductible for each incident.
If it was out of warranty and that's what it came down to.
Okay.
Well, I don't understand how you can charge people for so say I got a laptop that's 5 years old and it broke. Why should it be on me though to pay, it's gonna cost me $90? Like,
it would be damages that we found to be like, a drop, liquid, that sort of thing. Not like it just stopped working.
it wouldn't be, all right.
I can say from familiar anecdotal that the AppleCare does a pretty good job because I've seen a cup of tea get spilled on a whole laptop. It was $800 worth of damage. It was covered. So how many computers do we have that are not under this AppleCare?
It would be the devices from 9, 10, 11, and 12. So all
How many of
devices
those?
in the middle school are covered under AppleCare currently. They're brand new, so they have 3 years of AppleCare. And like you said, Chris, too, like we had a screen break the other day on a brand new MacBook and AppleCare replaced it for free. Basically, no questions asked.
So the question I've got is, most of the repairs we can do inside unless it's a major thing like a liquid or something like that.
Correct.
We didn't collect any fees last.
Honestly, too, in my position, it's really hard to prove that, I hate to say this, but that a student damaged the laptop maliciously, but it's a good program for the older devices especially, and also keep money in this program for when AppleCare runs out. I think we would build up some finances to repair devices for when they're not under warranty. And I feel like it's pretty affordable considering the prices of MacBooks. I think we're pretty fortunate to have our students use MacBooks as opposed to Chromebooks.
Any other questions or discussion? Yes.
Okay, so if middle school has AppleCare, why are we even charging middle school then? It's gonna be covered. Like, I understand high school doesn't have AppleCare anymore, but.
Sean?
Yeah, so AppleCare doesn't always cover it. I'm gonna say they cover 95%. Like Chris said, he saw some faulty on a device, they covered it. There are some things they don't cover. So, if someone throws a MacBook at a wall and AppleCare doesn't cover it, and it's a $1,000 fee, it'd be nice, I'm sure, for someone in the middle school family to pay this, $40, we can't prove that it was thrown, and it gets paid for.
So what's the total number of devices we roughly have that we're gonna collect this $40 to $60 on? Roughly.
Around 70,
So we're talking $2,800
if everyone opted in.
and a $5 million budget. I personally think I'd like to see us just cover it. Because I think it's a barrier for students, families right now with everything going on. Just go one more year without us paying that fee.
How about if we table this policy for this point in
Okay.
time for further discussion, and we'll bring back a version of the policy to the next board meeting?
I'm fine with that, Mary.
Okay.
To me, it's small potatoes in the grand budget. And I'd rather.
Yep, I hear what you're saying,
Yep.
and it's obviously
I
generates
think Wes is
further
on my
discussion.
page with that.
Okay,
Maybe just
so we'll
a big
table it for the
umbrella
next board
insurance
meeting.
policy. $50 if anything happens to it, it's just covered.
That's fair.
Sorry to overanalyze it. I just think it's.
Well, you have a legitimate concern, and it merits us taking it back to the policy committee and coming forward with maybe a different recommendation.
From my standpoint, I felt like it was important to have some type of protection plan, as I know a lot of other schools are doing it. I think in the future too, when we will have devices carried for under Apple Care, but there will be a time, I believe, where we won't have as many as we do right now. So.
Sean, we'll include you in that conversation, okay?
Okay.
When we revisit
Thank you.
the policy.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
we're tabling.
Tabling, we are
IJ,
tabling,
RJ and
yes,
Okay, super.
dash E, yeah, okay. Kathy?
Okay, the next one, we did JJJ, approved revised policy JLCA, which is physical exam of students. And that was sent to it's basically the same, isn't it, Lindsay? It just, Lindsay did a little,
I can't remember.
I remember, you just added, unless early, as indicated by the medical provider, you added, I remember that
Yes.
phrase.
Are we talking about physicals? Like
Physical examinations.
yes, yes. Our
So it's
policy
just
is
minor
every 2 years.
verbal changes that we had in this.
Did those policies get sent to us?
Can I have a motion
Yes.
to adopt policy JLCA?
Which is approved by Lindsay with this change of verbiage about medical providers.
Yes. Any questions? Okay. Joan, seconded by Jessica. All those in favor?
I had a question, so.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. For those, I didn't see those in my email. Were those emailed
They
to
were
us?
part of your packet that you received tonight.
It was in
It
the
was.
folder, but not in the email.
No, I believe it was. I think you had to scroll down after the
Was it on the agenda file?
agenda file.
Yes.
Because the agenda file was only 24. Okay. All right. Did that mark with track changes on there? Because I didn't see that.
I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, normally when you update a policy, those type of things, it's always good to kind of mark what the change is, so it makes it easier for the reader, especially when we're reviewing 7 or 8 policies. So I didn't see that.
Historically,
The change was just in number 2. The physicals shall be required every 2 years unless earlier as indicated by a medical provider.
Okay.
And it's by indicated by a medical provider is what was added.
That's the only thing that was added.
Okay.
Our policy had said 2 years, but most providers require physicals.
Once a year.
Either yearly or every 15 months. So I have to take what the provider writes as an expiration, not our policy. But if they don't put an expiration on it, it's only valid for 2 years.
I don't know, would that be too much of an unburden on staff if in the future we got those for the marked copies, so it just shows the track change?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, Kathy. All right.
I apologize, I'm not trying to
Can
be
we-
taken apart. Just-
Can we move? Can we move the?
So moved.
Can we move the motion?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? It's still a long night. We've got an executive session. Okay, Kathy.
What's the next one? JHB truancy. Seth, want to talk to that?
Yeah, just really quick, all this is, we didn't have it before, it's not required, it is just what the state statute is, so instead of parents going the main DOE site in chapter 20A and finding truancy statute. It's now in our policy. We can read it. It's pretty much verbatim what you would see on the state site. We just thought it'd be nice to have it right in our policy manual.
Any questions or discussion of policy JHB?
So moved.
Motion, Chris? Second, Kathy? All those in favor? Okay. 9-9, Kathy.
Motion to adopt policy IMGA, service animal in school, and to adopt.
Yeah, we basically just didn't have a policy in place and needed one. So this was MSMA's version.
Any questions?
So moved.
So moved, Chris, second? Deb, thank you. All those in favor?
And attendance, again, Seth, I'm sending this one to you.
Yeah, it's a very small change. First paragraph, it used to be mandatory attendance ages 7, and it's now 6, and that statute's like 1.5 years maybe, so we just fixed the policy to reflect statute. Isn't it in the first sentence? I don't have it in front of me. It says 6 years instead of 7 years. It should.
Yeah.
No, this is.
That was the truant one.
No, that was, no.
Oh,
this
sorry.
is to
Yeah, no, we don't
rescind.
need change.
This is to rescind the policy.
We're rescinding it because you updated the handbook.
Yeah, that policy is just the attendant procedure. We have it all in the student handbook. We
So
don't need
we're,
it.
so we're rescinding that.
I move that we
Rescinding it,
rescind.
yes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.
Rescind policy CBJ with the superintendent's termination of employment. And the reason that we decided to rescind that is because it's redundant, all the what do you call it, the reasons we would terminate a superintendent would be in their contract.
Exactly.
So we don't need to have this.
Yeah, this is an old policy way back, so we
It
do
goes way
everything
back.
contractually.
Right. And the termination clause is articulated in the
Right.
actual contract. So may I have a motion to rescind?
So moved.
Second? Joe, thank you. All right, all those in favor? The next one, I want to explain. It's a motion to approve the new apportionment plan. You'll notice in your packet of materials, there's a page which is called Updated Apportionment Plan for RSU 78 that was developed at the Department of Education by Paula Gravel. And she sent this to us a while ago. And I just would like to point a few things out. So you'll notice that there's the second line over is the population. That's the percentage of the population in each of those areas, Dallas Plantation, Rangeley, Sandy River, or Rangeley Plantation and Sandy River, to equal 100%. There's, prior to this change, which was precipitated by the fact that the McGalloway Plantation withdrew from the district, which required us to reweight our voting point system for the board. It's predicated on a total vote of 1,000 votes that are appropriated based on the percentage of the population that you represent, depending on where you come from, whether you come from Rangeley or you come from a plantation. The prior apportionment that we were working under up until now was based on the 2011 census figures. And the only reason I point that out is because now the new apportionment is based on the 2019 census. And as a result of that, there's a slight shift in Rangeley in terms of the point value that each of those representatives bring. So in Dallas Plantation, recognizing that we're losing a position or losing a board member, therefore all of us are going to get a bit of a bump in the numbers of points that we have toward our vote. If you are represented in Dallas Plantation, it used to be worth 72 points, and now your vote is worth 84. In Rangeley, your vote used to be worth 142 points. Now it's only 131 because there's been a slight downshift in the population in the community. If you were at Rangeley Plantation, you used to be worth 36 points in your vote system, and now it's 51. And Sandy River comes in as a big last participant at 27, now 36 points. But it is representative of the total population. So if you look at Rangeley, there are 5 reps. You get a total of 65.6% of all of the vote on the board. So that is split between those 5 representatives. So you individually your vote would be worth 1/5 of that 65%, and so on. And the state law does not allow for any one director to have a percentile vote of more than 14.1% as an individual representative on the board. And with this new apportionment, the biggest allowance, which falls in, you'll see in Rangeley, is 13.1. So it falls within those state guidelines. So the shift is a result of essentially 2 variables. The fact that McGalloway withdrew from the union, or from the district, and the fact that the new census drove those population figures. So are there any questions about that?
Yeah, why didn't they use the 2020?
I don't know. They used the 2019. I don't know why. This was drafted by the Department of Ed within, so that we could get an amended certificate of organization. And now, if you don't like this and you want to revisit the whole thing, there's an entire elaborate process we would have to go through in order to do that. It would involve calling all of the communities together for a formal discussion.
I'm good, Marion.
I'm
good.
Just saying, Chris.
I know. I just was surprised you used the 19.
You get 65.5 here, so.
I actually think it's probably going to go down some because Saddleback and all that stuff. There's more full-time people.
Well,
so that's why I thought.
And what we'll have to do, Chris, realistically, is we'll have to revisit this. As the new census data comes out, it's going to be critical for major decisions that the board makes that we are falling within the allocated limitations of what our votes should stand for. And that's a legal issue that's really important for us. So if we doubt this now, we feel that there's been a radical change in the community as a result of Saddleback, we can revisit it when a new census comes out.
Right. I mean, it's still pretty much what's traditionally already been. It's that
Exactly.
votes
You're looking at a
board.
shift of 10 or 12 points, which out of 1,000 really doesn't amount to much. Are there any other questions or discussion?
I move we accept approve the new apportionment plan as presented.
Can I have a second? Jim, thank you. All those in favor? Terrific. Okay, thank you very much.
I will follow through and contact the state.
Yes, so we can get a new amended certificate of organization? Okay, great. And we'll make sure that everybody on the board gets a copy of that. Okay, at this point in the agenda, I need a motion to move into an executive session to consider the labor contract negotiations 1 MRSA 405-6D.
So moved.
All those in favor? Okay, so I think we'll meet in the room right around the corner.
Mary, you might want to brief a couple of us before we go in if you're working just on what.
Hey, I'm going to do that. I have every intention of doing that.
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right.
Yeah, Jake, we'll send Jake right down. Jake, can you come down and talk to us?
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Nice job, Jake. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, let's go in the space back here, okay?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Take it.
Did they give us the contract?
It's in your packet.
Yes,
sir. Explain what's in there.
I won't take a pen. Thank you so much, and I'll give you a nice gift when I see you. I think that's
Thank you, Jake. Good job, Jake.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jake, appreciate it.
Bye,
All
guys.
right, Mr. McGinn.
Have fun.
Yeah, have a good second day.
I'll fill you in as to how the day went.
All right, guys.
Stay up too late.
Okay, Mom.
You guys.
Oh.
Yeah, we did all that work down there and they're all in here.
I think I would like to start having you do that.
Yeah, it was
Get in. Absolutely. Hey, thanks for all the help.
Yeah,
That was Mel.
Joanna. Joanna?
Oh, it was really good.
Yes.
You're not supposed to get that hot ring. Yeah, I did hear that.
What do you think about it?
That was good. I'm not at a place where I can make it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I was just like, whoa. So Lewiston, does that mean they're only gonna mess up if it's
well, they have to mask on their buses.
Yeah.
And Lewiston decided no
No
recommending,
Yeah.
recommended, and Portland said required.
And Bangor said
And
required
Bangor
too.
said
This
required.
morning.
Everybody's required on their buses. It's this.
Yeah, that's, no, what I mean,
order,
their
but I mean,
school is what is.
But I'm saying, so like they have to, regardless, they're still leaving on their transportation. But yeah,
Yeah.
Lewiston is recommended, I believe. Yeah, and Portland, Bangor.
People that are getting it and they all vaccinated.
That's why they made the recommendation that they made vaccinated.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. My kids probably have killed each other by now. They were home for 4 hours this morning by themselves while I was here, so. Yeah. And then they fought the whole time I was home, so I was just like, okay, well, let's hope everybody has their limbs.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, was you hiding under your ball cap over there?
No, so I got
Um,
busy cleaning and then I was like, oh, I
You're
can
not
shower.
lots.
So I didn't have time to do my
Well, do you want me to? I can read it.
No, I just. Yes, no.
If you want to mute it, that would be okay, because it's just.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. I just don't, you
So
know,
look at that.
set it. No, you can, thank you. Just me.
Right, I was like,
I'm like, oh God, what did I just say about my kids?
break their arms.
Yeah. Oh, yes, if they have all their limbs. I mean, one of hers is in a cast, so, you know, like, we're doing okay, I guess, so.
I wonder on the buses,